Exploration sucks ass in D&D, and I'm here to fix it. Because when I think of exploration, I think of... The issue with exploration in Dungeons & Dragons is that there's very little support for it. It's very much a combat-focused game and always has been. That's where its roots lie. And over the years, it has developed a semi-decent series of mechanics for roleplay. But as for exploration, it kind of just leaves everything down to the DM. Sure, there are some random encounter tables here and there, and in different campaign setting books, they have included a few additions for exploration, but they're often tied to the themes of that campaign setting itself, and need to be heavily restructured if you want to apply them in any shape or form to your own campaign setting. But at the end of the day, there are no core rules for exploration in Dungeons & Dragons. No rules for traveling from place to place, discovering new sites and making core memories along the way. Heck, most resource management is made redundant with spells like Goodberry and Create Food or Water. If you have a ranger in your party, a successful travel experience is kind of a given. And I love that for rangers because, God, they have not been given much love anywhere else. But this is not the case for the 2024 ranger because they got the shorter stick on that short stick.
The shorter stick on that short stick.
Yeah. They suck ass. They're so bad. The lack of tools or rules for running exploration leaves most folks uninterested in travel. In fact, the DMG literally says, just skip over it. It's better that way. And so, yes, it often gets skipped over so many people can get to the main story. Or it just becomes a slog of one irrelevant random encounter after another. And let's face it, how unheroic is it to die to a random wolf that you found in the woods somewhere? No one wants that. No one wants that for their game. That sucks. So unless the DM puts a lot of work into all of the adventures to be had along the road, you're not gonna have much fun and everything is going to feel rather lackluster and uninspiring. But then the point of exploration is to dive into the unknown, decide to go left where the DM hopes you would go right. And let's face it, DMs, we all use travel as a way to get our notes in order so we can actually prepare the city the players are going to in the meanwhile. But then because all of that focus is put in the destination, it makes for a very unsatisfying journey. And so how do we fix this? How do we develop tools for DMs to run satisfying and relevant exploration that is more than just a random encounter table or the wave of a DM's hand and then you're there? How do we make a set of rules for exploration that are not overly complex so they better suit 5e's simple and streamlined design, but at the same time add in optional rules for veteran players seeking a more gritty survival experience that won't easily become redundant as soon as spells like Goodberry and Create Food or Water come into play. Pointy Hat did come close with his actually good travel in D&D video, but in my own opinion, it felt like there wasn't quite enough meat to it. I liked his idea of near and far and very far, but there was definitely an opportunity missed there to change very far into far, far away. And I use this version of his method of traveling in my own games too. But what if you're a hex crawler at heart, or actually enjoy calculating the individual miles of your journey? Well, I have something for everyone. Inspiring locations and landmarks, cool resource gathering like hunting, mining, and foraging, deadly weather conditions, grittier survival mechanics, different types of rations, and player-driven narrative. There is so much to unpack from this very tiny table. This, my friends, is the ultimate zip file of tables, and is all you need to run incredible, memorable, and relevant exploration in your games. But in order to use it, you're going to first have to decide what kind of travel you want to run. Are you going for a more hardcore hex grid or day-by-day experience? Or do you prefer the idea of more of a loosey-goosey theater of the mind approach, in which case you might want to go with Pointy Hat's near, far, and far, far away locations? If you are planning to go with the latter, you simply need to decide when the players are traveling to their new destination, how far away it is from them, or better yet, how long do you want this travel montage to last? And what illusion of time do you want to put into the minds of your players? Do you want this to feel like an epic journey from Lord of the Rings, or a simple stroll to the next town over? Or maybe something in the middle? Based on what you decide, that will determine how many times you'll be having your players roll on this new random exploration event table. Or for short, how many times you'll have your players make a REET roll. For hex crawlers, you're going to want to have a player roll on the table every 1 or 2 hexes or so. If your destination is near, you'll only have to roll on this table 1 to 2 times. If your destination is far, you only have to roll 3 to 5 times. And if your destination is far, far away, you're going to want to roll about 5 to 10 times. So at the start of your journey and every other time a REET roll event has ended, you'll have one of your players roll a d6 on the table to determine what the next event of this journey will be. And the next time a REET roll has to be made, have a new player roll the dice until everyone has had a turn. You want to give as many players the option to roll as you can, because the player rolling will play a big part in the direction of the coming narrative. But speaking of narrative, have you ever struggled to recap the events of your previous D&D session? Have you ever wished you could have a last time on Dragon Ball Z kind of recap for your games? Potentially narrated by some epic dialogue and paired with the beautiful, most perfect musical score. Something to immerse your players so that they're ready to jump back in, warmed up and ready to go. This is where this video's sponsor, Scybe, comes into play. Scybe is a very clever little program that lets you upload your recorded audio from your previous sessions, which it will then compile into an excellent recap read by a narrator of your choice, along with a hand-picked musical score to best fit the mood you're going for your story. But my words can only tell you so much, so let's listen to a brief example of what this program can do.
Last session, you attended the funeral of Rosandra, where amidst your expressions of grief and recollection, 2 members of the Harpers, Ramelia, Haventree, and Sindra, approached you with a proposition. They revealed that Rosandra, like many others, fell victim to a mysterious death curse sweeping across the realm.
And rest assured, my fellow artists, that all the music featured here in Scybe is created by real composers with their permission and proper credit on the site. And while most of the voices are digitally created, the ones that are cloned are done so with explicit consent. If Scybe interests you, check it out at www.scribe.ca or by clicking the link in the description below. The first recap is free, and if it's something you like, you can always consider supporting the creator by purchasing additional credits on the site itself. Thank you so much to Scybe for sponsoring this video, and yeah, let's go back to our REET rolls, shall we? Alright, let's have a look at some examples, shall we? And feel free to follow along in the free link in the description below. So, if your players roll a 1, they come to the very familiar sight of a random encounter table. I mean, I had to put it in here, guys. It's a classic. Maybe not a great classic, but it's a classic nonetheless. And so you're probably thinking, wait, like, didn't he just say they suck? And yes, they do. Kind of, if they're done wrong. When they are generic and irrelevant to your campaign or any of the players in it, yes, it sucks. And so this is the only step here that will require you as a DM to do a little bit of work. Because as easy as it is to use a pre-made random encounter table, I would advise writing up just a small list of about 10 random encounters for your own campaign containing relevant scenarios that would further enrich the overall themes and story of your campaign. And this is the main reason why I personally haven't put a mass of lists in this document of random encounters. Because, well, number one, there are so many out there anyway, and number two, only you as a DM will know exactly what your campaign needs. Try to have every possible combat scenario provide new information about your overall plot or dive deeper into the players' backstories. Have minions of your BBEG catch up with your players, or have a horde of confused and feral creatures who have been warped by wild magical surges or some other plot-relevant device lash out and attack your party. Consider having old foes return seeking vengeance, or betrayed lovers send mercenaries to seek out and kill the one player who broke their heart. Use this moment to further enrich your players' narratives as well as your own.
Hello! My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
But look, if you are stuck, I have put an example of some random encounter tables I made for a game that I'm running for my players. I designed it for my players who were traveling from lush woodlands up into the mountains and then through some deserts until they reached a pirate city called Bale Green. In this party, there was a witch who could commune with spirits, a spirit or yokai who was battling with a corrupted being called the Red within them, and a buff Goliath called Krelos, who was trying to find his place in the world, as well as a changeling doctor whose parents ran away from the Feywild years ago. They lived in my homebrew world of Gostar, but this campaign was set thousands of years in the past from the current timeline, where only a few hundred years ago, a great magical war almost brought mortal kind into extinction. And now this world is filled with yokai and the remnants of advanced technology from ages past. And so this document has some nice encounters for those players specifically in that world. I had a duel with an old self-appointed rival of Krelos who swore to steal his heart. An old forgotten shrine inhabited by a corrupted yokai who has been starved of prayers and so has dried out and now resembles this old leathery wooden statue. I had a collection of aggressive spirits of warring soldiers who died but can't move on, and then there was a chance that some of Viola's changeling cousins might find her and try to drag her back to the Feywild. And so take your time and write up 6 to 10 random encounters that may occur on this journey. And once you have them and a player ends up making a REET roll that results in a random combat encounter, you'll be ready with the good juice. And so when a player does roll and gets a random encounter, my advice to you is to have that player be the one in the party who accidentally or intentionally triggered this event. Let that player choose if they triggered it provocatively, i.e. did something stupid, selfish, etc. to trigger the event, or if they triggered it passively, i.e. if they were simply walking through the dungeon and accidentally walked into a gelatinous cube. If a player chooses to trigger the event provocatively, the rest of the party will have the surprise condition at the start of combat. But if that player chose to trigger the event passively, that player will be surprised at the start of combat. Everyone else will be okay. But regardless of their choice, do let them know beforehand that the player who triggered this encounter will always be the one closest to the danger when this encounter begins. Do explain to the player who rolled on the event table what threat has actually emerged, but allow them to describe or roleplay what exactly they did to get everyone else into this mess. Try to make this event a collaborative storytelling experience before the combat actually begins. Let's move on from combat now though, because it only occurs if they roll a 1, and everything else beyond this point will hopefully be fresh and interesting for you. No more random encounter tables. Like weather! A while back on my Patreon, I released a PDF for these horrible weather conditions, and there was a free version of it too out there. and I thought this was a perfect opportunity to incorporate that PDF and give it some more life, give it some more use. Because most of the time, it's weather that will make or break a journey. Heavy rain, eyes of a hurricane, the molten glass storms, and meat-melting monsoons that are all in this PDF, scorching deserts, rocky mountains, humid rainforest. Your environment and the elements around you will always be your greatest enemy, because they are ever present, always beating down on you and testing your grit. For hardcore veteran players, there will be moments where toughing out a storm. You are so cheeky. You just have been waiting for me to start talking again, and now you're like, now I'm going to jump in. Yeah, so it's the next day. I tried for quite a while, but Blue is very good at telling me when to stop working for the day. So at least there's that. But here, let's go back into some more exploration stuff. Let's go. Where was I? Veteran players. I said veteran players quite a lot. I remember that distinctly. For veteran players, there will be times when toughing out a storm will be futile, and you'll have to take shelter somewhere, eating into more of your provisions, your rations, for the next few days until the storm finally passes by. It's also much easier to get lost in a storm. Even a sudden creeping mist can distort you enough to lead you off the edge of a cliff or into a raging river. So take heed, adventurers, because this event is not to be taken lightly. Number 3 is landmarks. And who doesn't love some good sightseeing when it comes to travel and exploration of new locations? We all want to see the cool stuff. Even if it's just for a moment, a good description of a beautiful scene can breathe so much life into your world and the adventures that take place within it. But I know, it's really hard to come up with cool stuff on the spot sometimes. And so not only have I designed one table for creating intriguing and memorable landmarks, but 4. Each table is suited to a different environment type or setting. Jungles and woodlands, deserts or islands, mountains and wintry environments, they are all included here, as well as a table entirely dedicated to the magical and otherworldly. Perfect for traveling through the Feywild, for example. Now you can roll on these tables for random results or just use them as a source of inspiration. That is entirely up to you. Either way, I hope they help you in describing new and intriguing regions for your players. And if you want more tables like this one, I also recommend checking out Sly Flourish's Lazy DM's workbook. It's an invaluable resource for DMs, especially when it comes to thinking on the spot. Number 4 on the roll results is a social encounter, and let's be fair, we all love this one. Sure, combat is fun and all, but what about Bonk, the random goblin chef who wants to go to culinary school when he's older, but we'll never know more about him because the DM hadn't planned for the party to get so attached, and he was just some throwaway idea, but the party's new quest is to raise funds for his college degree, and they were getting further and further away from the main plot, and so the DM unalived him, fired on by his own kin. Under the grey, stormy skies, rain fell lightly on the lifeless face of Bonk, mixing with the tears of the party members who huddled around him. Dream of that restaurant by the coast, sweet prince. Rest now, and be at peace. The cleric says one final prayer for the unfortunate soul, and they bury their body outside Meat Cute Beer and Grill, his favorite restaurant. Who doesn't love a good piece of drama, a beloved NPC, or a juicy piece of lore? It is time to pull out those NPCs from players' backstories, defeated antagonists who are left for dead, and silly shopkeeps or individuals who have been wronged by the party in some way in the past. And if you can't think of something, consider asking the player who just rolled, who do you want to see in this segment? Who do you want to engage with? Who do you stumble across in this part of the story? And this could even be a spirit of a loved one returning from the grave to have but a moment with a member of the party, perhaps that individual player. I mean, who said anything about this social event needing to be with living characters? Alternatively, consider asking that player, is there anyone in the party you want to have a moment or some time with? But if no one can still think of anything, I've also included a creepy little NPC shopkeep that you can throw into your games at any point. Their name is Omamori, though I can't promise that the encounter with this NPC will be pleasant. For DMs who've maybe shared this video with their players, I won't go into details on this NPC here, but it's all there in the document, so I'll make this video a bit spoiler free if ever you're thinking of adding them into your future games. And while we're here, feel free to comment your most beloved NPC in any of your games. We all have one. Mine is Bonk. I have a tendency for just adding really old goblins into my games. I don't know why. Just old people in general, now that I think about it. That's like my default NPC is some old, small, scrunkly little thing. I wonder what that says about me. Now, earlier I did mention some resource gathering, mining, hunting, and foraging and the likes. And I promise you, I have not skipped out on this section. In fact, the whole reason I made this video in the first place is because I was designing a resource gathering system for my roleplay skill tree, for my Classless D&D mechanics. And it was so huge that I needed to create a whole other video just for that section, and so here it is. I just can't seem to help myself. I meant to do this as like a ooh-wee fun little video to throw in there while I make the roleplay skill tree, but no, I've ended up making a 7,000 word document and I'm currently on the 6th page of this script. Good luck, future editing me. I apologize. Yeah, so future editing Gabriel here. Screw you, past Gabriel. But we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not too bad. Oh, there's me. There's you. So yes, if a player rolls a 5 on the REET roll, they will stumble upon a source of valuable materials. Now, this might be an ore vein, a grove of plants, or some sort of wild creature, be it dead or alive. Players can then take an hour or so to harvest the resources from this area, and let me tell you, I have made a multitude of options to choose from. Not only have I designed 18 different ores, 12 hunts you can go on, as well as a dozen different plants to forage, all of which have a variety of rarity, different selling prices, etc. But if you haven't watched my smithing video yet, the link is both up here and in the description below, I also included a collection of 60 different materials you can gather for weapon forging from 12 different creature types. And if you are one of my many incredible patrons out there, you should have access to the expanded PDF, which includes 120 different materials, which you can also use to forge armors as well as weapons. So when a player makes a REET roll and lands on a found material section, you can bet they're gonna find some really juicy stuff from a collection of something like 162 different types of materials. But because there are so many options here, when a player rolls on this event, ask them what they want to find. Do they want to find a creature or an ore vein or a grove of plants? Let them decide, and from there you can choose something that is relevant to the current setting or environment they're in, and then have them roll an exploration check to see how lucky they get. get. In any case, they will be getting a d4 plus 1 of that found material that they can divvy up between their friends. And if players enjoy this mechanic, consider letting them continue gathering resources along the road. Every time a player makes a REET roll, allow others to also make their own survival, nature, or investigation checks to see if they find anything nice for themselves. I go into more detail on how this works in the gathering section of this document, but a player will need to know what they are looking for, be it in Orvain, Grove, or Hunt, and the higher they roll, the luckier they will get, finding either common, precious, or mythical material. This will all be a part of the Classless skill tree I'm developing, in particular the roleplay section, but for now, enjoy gathering materials and let me know in the comments what you think of this system and if it's for you. And while we're here, let's have a quick look through some of the materials that a player might find in the world. So I'm gonna go a little off script here and I'm gonna roll either a d4 or a d6 to just see what kind of ores, plants, or creatures we find out in the wilds while exploring. So we're gonna start off with the common rarity, go down to the precious ores or plants or whatever, and then we're going to go to the magical or mystical versions of those things. So we're going to start off with common ores. So I'm going to roll the d6 and it's a 6. Nice. So if I get a 6, I will find some copper. Pretty simple actually. A 6 is a little boring, but you can refine it into 10 copper pieces. There you go, nice and easy. I'll just roll it again just to give you another example of some other ores here. It's a 2, so you can find all the ingredients to make bronze, for example. And bronze weapons, if you make them, they all gain the heavy property. If they had the light property before, they lose it. Also, armor made from bronze, it reduces incoming damage by 2, but it also reduces your movement speed by 10 feet and also grants disadvantage on acrobatics checks. So not the best, but it gives you tiny little perks. It's a little different from steel, which doesn't really have any benefits or negative effects necessarily. So we're gonna move on and we're gonna see what our precious ores are. These are gold, copper, silver, all that kind of stuff. So let's have a roll of the dice. And we've got a 4. So a 4 is gold, and if you find gold, you can refine it into 5 gold pieces. Pretty simple. Moving on to magical ores. Let's see, last d6. We got a 2 and we find radianite. So I'm going to read the description here of radianite. So this ore emits a bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 10 feet. When a weapon made with radianite successfully hits a creature, that creature must make a Constitution saving throw or be blinded until the end of their next turn. Armor then made with radianite grants the effects of the Bless spell. So there you go, some magical mystical ore, which is radianite. And I also have a bunch of rules in here for how to use different ores to make different items. Different items will cost different amounts of ore, and that is all in this document here, so do check that out after this video. We're going to move on though to hunting, and we're going to see what kind of hunts we can go on. So these only use a d4, but we're going to roll and see what kind of common hunts we can find. So rolling a d4, we got a 3, so we find a harpy hare. So I'll give you the description of the harpy hare. This is a winged hare that can feed a party of 4 to 5 people for 1 day, and then it counts as 1 basic ration per person. There's more details on rations at the end of this document. And consuming this hare grants a +2 dexterity check for the next day. So pretty nice, pretty sweet, and it gives you a nice little meal. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover all of the Grittier survival rules in this video. It's already so long. But if you do want to check them out, they're all at the bottom of this document. I've got stuff for different rations and things in there. Do check it out. There's some really juicy stuff. I can go and jump into it a little bit after I go through all this, but for now, if I don't, do check it out after this video and let me know in the comments what you think. But we're moving on to precious hunts now, so I'm going to roll a d4 and see what we get. It's another 3, so we're going to get an arcane angler. So the description of an arcane angler is that these are rare but horrific looking fish that serve as a prime source of mana replenishment for all casters. This fish can feed a party of 4 to 5 people for 1 day. Some of the other things in here count as like fancier types of rations and things and can feed people for longer, but this fish isn't the biggest, so it only feeds a party of 4 to 5 for the 1 day. And it counts as 1 basic ration per person. And upon consuming it, a caster will regain their highest level spell slot, but no higher than a 3rd level spell, or 5 mana if you're playing with the Classless skill tree system. Alternatively, 1 ration can be made into a pulp and mixed with a strong alcohol, and if a magic item is soaked in this liquid for an hour, it regains 1d4 plus 2 of their charges. Also, wizards will happily purchase this for 100 gold apiece. So that is our precious hunts, and now we have our mythical hunts. These are interesting as well. Hunts require you to get a successful AC check for some of the creatures here in order to hit them once you've found them and finished hunting them down. So we're gonna roll a d4 and see what we get. So we got a 2 here. Apologize for the flickering here, my camera does that from time to time. But let's see, on a 2, we have the Ancient Phoenix. In particular, in brackets, it's ashes. So upon killing this phoenix, it bursts into ash, which will form a new phoenix. But siphoning just a little ash for yourself couldn't hurt. This ash can be used to cast Revivify as an action without consuming a spell slot or needing material components. Alternatively, it can be sold to a holy figure for 500 gold pieces. So hunts are a little trickier to get, but they do have some very precious rewards. But we're going to move on from hunts here, and we're going to go and check out what kind of things we can forage, what plants exist in the wild. So we're going to roll a d4 as usual to see what we find. So rolling a dice, we got a 2. So we find some blue caps. So these are a core ingredient for brewing the common healing potion, but is deadly if eaten raw. Consuming this odorless and flavorless blue mushroom will deal 1d4 poison damage to whoever consumes one of these. So a nice little kind of multifunctional plant there. If paired with one of the other plants here, the aid leaf, you can make a healing potion. We're going to move on to precious plants. We're going to roll a d4 and see what we get. We got a 3. I'm not getting 1s or 4s, but that's all right. And number 3 is a ruby, sapphire, or topaz rose. So these very beautiful crystal roses, they fetch a high price at any store, typically selling for about 10 gold a piece. Alternatively, they can be thrown as an action and will explode, dealing 2d6 fire, cold, or lightning damage to a target being consumed in the process. So obviously the damage type is related to the type of gemstone that this rose is made out of. So finally, we've got to our mythical plants. We're gonna roll a d4 and we're gonna see what kind of plant we get. So last result, we got a 1. So a 1 will help us find a mandrake. So mandrakes, once harvested, one can immediately store them in a flask of oil to keep them silent. But once removed from either the earth or this oil, the mandrake will let out a harsh scream for 10 seconds, forcing every creature that can hear it within 30 feet make a Constitution DC 12 saving throw or be stunned until the end of their next turn. On a success, the creature is still deafened and the mandrake dies after releasing the scream and can be eaten like a root vegetable. And so that is all of our little ores, plants, and creatures that you can find in the wild. Just a little snippet. Do check out the document and let me know what some of your favorites are in the comments below. And also check out the Grittier survival skills and let me know what you think of those. I'm going to go back to past or future me. I can't remember which one it is, but we're going to go back to the rest of the video now and go back into the script. Okay, so I think I'm probably hitting around the half an hour mark at this stage. Let me know how you're enjoying it so far. If you're still here and watching this video, thank you so much for sticking with it all the way through. Because we have one final event that we need to cover, and to be honest, I think this is probably the strongest contender here. As much fun as playing Minecraft in D&D or meeting goblins called Bonk is, nothing in my experience has been more fun than simply letting my players take the wheel and tell me what they want to happen next. If a player gets a 6 on the REET roll, you pass your DM cap over to that player and you ask them, what happens next in this stage of the journey? Obviously, it should probably be something within reason, like a beach day, stargazing, or maybe the party finds some hot springs or something. But this is an event I can guarantee that your players will enjoy and be excited about because it's something they want. It's not always easy being a DM and trying to figure out exactly what your players want. So every now and again, it's just kind of nice to ask them and just let them guide the story. And obviously, a player might get stuck when put on the spot here, and if this happens, feel free to let them use anything from this document as a source of inspiration. I highly encourage you as DMs to try this out from time to time. Pass the wheel onto your players and see what they find fun. You'll get a better perspective through their eyes, but also it lets you relax and take a step back because you're on this journey too, and you should all enjoy it together. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. It's wild to think that I've been doing this for a year now, and it's crazy to see how far we've come already. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who has helped me and been with me a long way. Everyone who's joined me recently, thank you. I can now actually say that this is my full-time career to make cool content for all of you out there, and I hope you've been enjoying what I've been dishing out so far. This gathering mechanic is just a small fraction of what is to come with the Classless skill tree system that I'm developing. So if you don't want to miss out on that, do make sure to subscribe, and DMs, share this with your players. Players, share this with your DMs. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like or comment below on some of your favorite parts or aspects of this travel exploration video. It really helps. And if you enjoy my content and want even more, consider supporting me over on Patreon. All of you wonderful folk over there who have supported me, you are the ones who allow me to keep this momentum up and drop enormous 7,000 word documents into the YouTube video that I've just made here and give it away for free. From the bottom of my heart, genuinely, thank you so much. You allow me to do what I do, and you all mean the world to me. And if you want more fun videos like this, check out any of these videos here on the screen, like my smithing video, it's a very nice juicy one, or add Pokemon to your D&D with this video over here. Go explore them, have fun, and thank you so much again for watching. Sending my love to all of you out there. Goodbye.